Shall we start? Yes. So we are in Act 3, Scene 1. As far as Shakespeare's tragedies are concerned, there are 5 acts in a Shakespearean play, in a Shakespearean tragedy. The first act is the exposition, the introductory act, the situation where the drama is taking place is introduced. So that is the purpose of the first act. So we have seen in Othello, this is known as exposition. Exposition. That is the first act. So in the first act, we saw that Rodrigo was unhappy that Iago has not told him about the secret marriage, the elopement, and the secret marriage of Desdemona and Othello. So this is how the drama begins. Then Iago tells him to alert Brabantio, Desdemona's father, about his daughter's elopement. And after making the arrangements, Iago sneaks away because he's a villain. So he doesn't want to be identified with the Brabantio's team from the perspective of Othello. So he sneaked away and he joins Othello, and he warns him that Brabantio and his party are coming for him. And Brabantio is aroused from sleep at midnight with the shouts of Desdemona's elopement. Brabantio suddenly, angrily calls in his officers to arrest Othello. In the second scene of the first act, we saw that the Senate of Venice was in session because of the news of the Turkish attack of Cyprus, which was an administrative territory of Venice. So the Senate was in session, and the Senate had decided to summon Othello. Brabantio appears there and alerts the council about his daughter's secret marriage. And already, Othello was already there to command the forces to repel the Turkish forces from Cyprus. Othello alerts the Senate about his issue, and then Othello explains how all these things happened, how the marriage, came to happen. The secret, the love affair. Who was responsible? It was, Brabantio was responsible, because Brabantio used to invite Othello to his home to listen to hear about, the stories of Othello, the stories of warfare, the stories of suffering, and all those things. It was a very interesting. It must have been a very interesting story, the story of a soldier. Right. So And Desdemona used to listen to the story, and gradually she fell in love with him. This is it. But Brabantio accuses him of using, black magic as well as drugs. He believes for sure that unless with the help of black magic and drugs, it is impossible that his beautiful, innocent daughter will love such a black man as Othello. And finally, Othello tells the Senate to call in Desdemona to testify. So she is called in. Desdemona is called in, and she defends her marriage. Well, when a choice in front of her, there was a choice. The choice between the father and the husband. Well, in the open court, in the open Senate, well, Desdemona, chooses. Desdemona prefers. She chooses her husband, and he becomes very, very shocked. Brabantio becomes very, very shocked, and at the time of departure, he gives Othello a warning. Well, remember, don't forget, that warning is very, very important. Don't forget, Othello, she has cheated. She has deceived her father. She might deceive her husband also. So be very, very, very careful. And that statement is, as far as from the point of view of tragedy, from the point of view of drama, this is very, very important. It's a very, very that statement is filled with the dramatic irony, because this is what is going to happen towards the end of the play. And everybody, that is Othello, and others, they leave for Cyprus, to take up the command against the Turks. That was the first act. In the second act, the second act was in Cyprus. So if the first act was the exposition, the second act, starts the rising action. The exposition, then rising action. The action proceeds towards the climax. It goes up. Rising action. Well, that second act is in Cyprus. We see that in Cyprus, Montano, the governor, greets these people, everybody, one after another. Iago, Cassio comes first, then Iago, Desdemona, Emilia, and Rodrigo, they come. Then finally, they thought there was some problem. There was a terrible storm in the sea. Well, and finally, there was some news about the destruction of the Turkish fleet in the sea due to a storm, a terrible tempest in the sea. Well, there were